First of all, I'm going to run through with you. Remember this. This is the original post that got everyone's attention on LinkedIn. This is my kind of color-coded guide to how I plan a talk presentation. In this case, it was a speech that I was giving to the European Speech Writers Network. So it had to be good. Right, and this was the version. It was the title of the talk was The Art of Listening. So I'm going to run through this so you can actually hear the 18-minute talk that I gave to based on these bullet points. And that's all I had. When I stood up on the stage, that was all I had. Okay.
So, quick question. This was
Yes,
a live talk then. This
this
wasn't
was
a
a
virtual.
live talk in front
Okay.
of real people. Now you're all real
Okay.
people, but we're not in the same room. In the same room as real people. The there's elements of the framework that I'm using here was about identifying your story, your theme, and your interaction. And there are things you can do interacting in a real space with real people that is hard to achieve in an online space. There are some things you can do in online spaces
Mhm.
that are interactions. This is why it's so lovely to see people with their cameras on. I appreciate it, okay, because it means we can read each other's faces, and that's a really important part of interaction. So the first thing is I'll run through the speech that was based on that plan, so you can get an idea of what it was like. Also, the speech was about how to listen when you're writing a speech, how to listen to the person you're writing for. So it's kind of relevant. It's not like I'm talking about, I don't know, genetically modified crops or something really kind of weird. Not weird, but arcane. Second element would be I'd like to reflect on what it was, how it went. So, how did the talk go? Um, what did I think afterwards? What feedback did I get? How did I actually change the framework? Because I changed the framework as a result of the talk. And I've brought it up to date. And then the third element will be to ask you to ask me questions. So anything you want to know about any aspect of what I've talked about, or anything to do with public speaking, storytelling, presentation, and so on. Um, there is something I would also like to throw your way at the end, which is something I'm working on right now, which hasn't been made public yet. Um, so I think it'll be interesting. I'd like your opinion on it, and I'd like to sort of share it with you at the end. Okay, so that's the plan. Okay, so first of all, then I'm going to go into kind of presentation mode. So this is me presenting the talk on the art of listening based on this kind of color-coded plan. In order to do this, so I'm going to kick off with some audience interaction. Now, again, it's kind of easy in a room full of people. So on the Zoom version, here's what I'd like you all to do. If you can, please switch your camera on and appear on the camera, because this bit of interaction requires us all to be able to see each other.
Mhm.
Okay, so Adi Banjo, thank you. Dustin, hello. Judy, Daniel, James, Ale, Asma, if you can switch your cameras on. If you can't, don't worry. Okay, so the first element is I'm going to get you to do a little kind of visual vote. Okay, so what I need you to do is get your hands in the frame so I can see your hands. Okay, and the question is how much, well, one hand will do, two hands is fine, Dustin. How much do you love or hate AI when it comes to writing, creating content? Now, if you love AI, you think it's absolutely brilliant, you can put your hand up here. Don't do it yet. If you think AI is the devil's own work, put your hand down here. If you're kind of undecided in the middle now, before you vote, everyone put your hands down. Right, before you vote, I need you to do one thing. Close your eyes. Right, so bless you, Joseph. Close your eyes. Now put your hand roughly where you think, yeah. So, okay, where are you, middle, top, or bottom? Okay, very good. Everyone's voting. Thank you. Okay, now open your eyes. Keep your hand where it was. Okay. Now, here's the thing. The result of the vote doesn't really matter because it's kind of, thank you, Judy. The result of the vote doesn't really matter. What matters is what do you do the minute you open your eyes? The answer is the minute you open your eyes, you look at other people, right? To see how did they all vote? Oh, am I the, because what we're always thinking, one of the things we're constantly thinking is, am I the only one? Am I normal? Am I a bit weird? Is it only me? Right? There's a whole thread, yeah, on Mumsnet, the very popular UK social media channel called Mumsnet, and the whole thread is called am I the only one who thinks, or is it unreasonable for me to think, right? Because we're constantly trying to figure out this question of, am I the only one? So the first thing you did when you opened your eyes was you looked around. You looked around the screen to see what's everyone else doing. And this is really key. It's really important. And it takes us into, this is when I'm going to get into a bit of drawing for us now as part of the presentation, because it kind of takes us into what is going on when we're operating in the world. I'm going to switch my camera into what's called desk view. Now you can still, you should still be able to see me. Hold on a second. It's desk view. Okay, but what you're seeing instead is my desk, right? My paper. So what is going on here is, right, well, there's us, the humans in the loop. Okay. And when in any situation, what we're very, very aware of is people around us. Yeah. So what are other people doing, thinking, and saying? The people around us. Most importantly, what we're really worried about is, what do these other people think about me? Yeah, that's the thing we're really interested in. Do they think I'm, doing the right thing? Do they think I'm crazy? Do they think I'm normal? Okay, so this is very interesting, and there's a whole section of our brain that's taken up with figuring this stuff out. Where do we stand in relation to other people? And it's one of the areas of the brain that never goes to sleep. In fact, it's what's called in the it's what's called by the scientists, they call it the default network, because it never rests. So even when you're asleep, then your brain, parts of your brain are working. Why we dream. And the default network deals with our relationships with other people, but it deals with it in a very particular way. So if I can go back to the drawing again, what it's doing is, okay, we are thinking about other people, but we're thinking about them in little movie scenes, little scenarios. And they might be things that happened in the past, which comes in as memory, or it could equally be things that we are projecting into the future. Yep, where we're actually going, okay. And those things both come in kind of episodic. You remember the past in episodes and you think about the future in episodes. And those episodes are always about, yep, what do other people do or think or say? What do I do or think or say? So this is kind of the default network. This is what our brains are doing all the time. And the other thing that we're paying attention to, so we're thinking in scenes, scenarios. It's called the default scenario network. So sometimes it's called the scenario network, sometimes it's called the default network. But I actually like to call it, not surprisingly, the story network. Because that's how we think. When you're not thinking about anything else, that's how you're thinking. You're thinking about little scenarios. Now, the other thing that this network is doing is monitoring people. It's thinking visually. The other thing it's doing is monitoring inwards. Yeah, it's monitoring your emotional state. So it's looking outwards at other people. It's looking inwards at your heart, and also I think at your gut feeling, your instinct, your feeling of, yeah. So when we think in an embodied way. And when we listen, I think we listen in an embodied way. So the art of listening, the title of the talk, the art of listening is actually about listening, not just with your ears, but with your whole self. I'll give you an example. Way back in the early days of lockdown, this is way back in when everyone was just getting used to using Zoom. And I had a video call with somebody who was a potential client. And this person was telling me all about their work. And she was on a call, but her camera wasn't working. My camera was on, so we were just having a conversation, while we just sort of talked about. But the trouble was, the stuff she was talking about, I didn't like it. I didn't like what she was talking about. I didn't rate it. I didn't think it was very, very, and I thought she was quite. I'm never going to meet her again, so I can say this. She felt quite self-important and a little bit sort of. It was all about her, all about me, rather than. And I started to get a little bit I could feel the reaction in me. And at one point, as a joke to myself, I made this sort of sort of like that gesture. Like, this is making me sick, right? When as I was doing that, I suddenly went, "Oh God, my camera's still on." And so I managed to turn that into a sort of like halfway between a cough and a beard stroke, right? And I don't think she noticed. I hope she didn't notice. But here's the interesting thing. I didn't get any work from her, so maybe she did. But here's the interesting thing. I felt something as she was talking. I felt a reaction, and the reaction was this. This is cliched. It's self-important. I don't like it, and I felt the reaction here, in my heart. My gut feeling was telling me, you don't want to work on this. Don't do this. This isn't going to be right. And that is really interesting. And that's what I mean by listening with your entire body.
Mhm.
Now, here's a little experiment that I asked the people to do um, in the in the test, which is okay. Scientists did a study where they asked thousands of people to point to the part of their body where they felt certain emotions. So they said, okay, point to the. I'm going to ask you to do the same. Point to the place in your body where you feel anxiety. So everyone point whereabouts in your body do you reckon you feel anxiety? No, Dustin, not there. Whereabouts? Uh, okay. Now, and then, funnily enough, then they did a heat map, and yes, the anxiety is here, and yeah, a bit further down here. And then they said, point to the place where you feel shame or embarrassment. So again, anybody want to try and want to point to the place where you feel in your body shame or embarrassment? Marie, yeah, it was here. And so the heat map looked like Spider-Man, with two sort of red glows here, because people feel it here. And thousands of people felt it in the same place. And then finally, I said to them, point to the place where you feel love. That's an interesting one. And the answer, the heat map, was all over. Yeah, we feel love in our heart, in our gut, in our face. We felt love all over. So I thought it was really nice. But what I did was I got people in the crowd, in the audience, to do what Marie and Dustin just did, was to point to themselves, and then I showed them the results on the whiteboard. I'd drawn them out on the whiteboard and said, "Look, you've just matched with other people in that study." So it was a way of saying, "Look, we do embody our feelings. And when we're listening with our entire our entire bodies." And so my takeaway, I guess, for that audience I was talking to about the speech writers is you've got to listen. You've got to listen with your entire body. And whatever your body is telling you when your client is saying, yeah, I need to do a speech about, I don't know, car exports or whatever it is. I need to do a speech about this. Well, whatever your client is telling you, you're listening with your entire body, and you're reacting in the way that their audience is going to react. And if your reaction is this is really like sick making, or oh God, this is so boring, it's a physical reaction you're having. You're the canary in the coal mine. You're having the reaction before the real audience does. And if your reaction is, oh God, this is so dull, you've got to do something about it. You're the speechwriter. You've got to do something. And here's what you do. You go back to the story network, right? You go to that element, yeah, of the part of us that listens, and you go for the emotion. And you think, right, I've got to find the emotion in the story. And so I gave them at this point something which is loosely based on work I've done with storyteller tactics. It's like, and I said, look, sometimes you can get an idea down to a point where you can write it on the back of a cigarette packet. Nobody smokes anymore, therefore you can't do that. So I've done a back of a business card. So I've got a business card there, and I handed these out. I said, on the back of the business card, there's a 4-step guide to finding the emotion in the story of any situation, because the emotion is the surest, fastest, quickest route to embodied listening. So you've got to ask about the emotion. You've got to draw the emotion out of yourself or the person who your client, and make that. Once you can give us that in your speech, You can give us the moment of emotion. We're listening with with our whole bodies instead of just listening with kind of half a mind. So that's the plan. And within that kind of very, four-step four-step process, it's just four sentences. And if you're familiar with storyteller tactics, you'll know these four sentences from the emotional dashboard tactic. But this is the kind of the super slimline version of that, because it's just four sentences. And it goes, I felt, okay, an emotion, positive or negative, when something happened, because I wanted, actually wanted something else to happen. This was an unpleasant surprise. And so I did what? So in my version, I felt very stupid when I nearly messed up a call with a client by forgetting the camera was switched on, because I wanted to actually look like a responsible adult who doesn't behave like a child on calls. And so I learned how to conduct myself more professionally in future. Okay, that's the heart of the story. And the story is there's a story there, and it you can find it if you're working with either yourself or with somebody else, and they're struggling to find a story. They don't know what a story is. They don't know what their story is. You can find it in the feeling. Tell me about a time when you felt a strong emotion. Now, interestingly, the strong emotion side, I'm just going to flick back into there's some work been done by New York Times a few years ago, but other people have done the same sort of work around emotions, and in particular around what emotions share really well on social media. Now, here's an interesting thing. And if you'd like to do this on the meeting, the group chat, you're very, very welcome to. Or you can come on the mic and shout up. I'm going to say, look, there are sets of emotions. Okay, so there are negative emotions and positive emotions, and some of them have got lots of energy, and they share very, very well. So if a story triggers one of these high energy emotions, people are much more likely to share it, and others are kind of low energy, and they don't really share very well on social media or in conversation for that matter. So let's do the negative first. Let's go negative first. What do you think are the emotions that share very well that are negative emotions? Either type or come on the chat and shout up an idea. What negative emotions share well? Anger. Oh, now here we go. Sita and Sean, both Sita and Sean. Arr, they're angry people. Anger. Yep. Frustration. Yep, that shares well. What else? Disgust. Oh, actually, Judy, disgust is a belter. Disgust really shares well because you can't control it. It's there. It's coming out from. Oh, okay. Disdain. Oh. Contempt. Despair. Now, interestingly, Irimma, despair, rolling eyes. Yeah. Jan's onto an interesting point there. I'll come back to that in a second. Despair in Irimma and sadness and loneliness. Can I spell despair? Despair is with an E. Despair, sadness, and loneliness, interestingly, they are negative emotions. They don't share very well. Whereas anger, frustration, disgust, rage, oh, I'll tell you what, share envy. Those all share really well. Boredom, equally, Donna, I don't think boredom shares very well, but it's a negative emotion. Okay, now here's the good news is that there are lots of positive emotions out there as well. Is there an icon for envy? Green, Jan. I think green face. The positive emotions also share really, really well. So it's not just negative stuff that shares. Again, in the chat, what are the positive emotions you think that share best? Joy. Absolutely right. Excitement. Yep. Joy and excitement. What else? Enthusiasm, optimism. Optimism, I think. Optimism, or I was going to say hope. Hope shares well. Inspiration. What's that feeling? What do you call it when you walk out of the door at night and it's a clear night sky and you look up and you see the stars or the moon? What's that feeling? Wonder, awe. Yeah, those are the emotional reactions, by the way, to feeling small in the face of something much bigger than us. So it's almost a religious feeling of, but we love it and we share it. So all of these, humor, by the way, closely related to joy. Yep, shares incredibly well. Here's an interesting one. Love shares well. Yes, I remember, absolutely does. Yep. I was going to say hug. Yeah, the hug emoji shares really well. Nostalgia is an interesting one. Yeah. Nostalgia shares very well because it makes people feel togetherness. Yes. Remembering a time that we have in common, whether it's your childhood and other people's childhoods or whatever it is, nostalgia shares really well. Here's what doesn't share very well. It's positive, but doesn't share very well. Awareness. Sadly, awareness doesn't actually share that well. So if you're trying to get a message across and I say to you, what are you trying to do? You say, I'm trying to raise awareness of. It's basically like awareness is actually saying, here's some homework that I'd like you to do. You need to read these three things and come back to me with an answer. No, that actually doesn't really share very well. So if you're saying, I'm trying to raise awareness of, I don't think that's going to work. I'm trying to get people excited about. I'm trying to make people feel optimistic about. I'm trying to inspire people. I'm trying to make people laugh at the fact that, oh yeah, those things will share well. But I'm trying to raise awareness of is like saying, come on, kids, time to do your homework. And let's be honest, not many of us liked doing homework. So that's really interesting. And that so when you're looking for emotion, yeah, you're using those kind of four sentences to structure around an emotional moment in story that people will react to physically. Okay, I felt any one of these emotions. Yep. When this thing happened. Okay, so now we're into a little scenario. Yep. Little movie scenario with people in it. Okay. So I felt the emotion when this thing happened because I wanted, and the wanted is like, well, what were you motivated by? What were you trying to achieve? It tells us something about you. And so I didn't just give up. Yes, and so I learned a lesson. And so the motivation and reaction are really important elements of your character, whereas the emotion in the situation. So what you do by listening and asking those questions to develop that kind of story, you do two things. I'm looking for a different colored pen. Hold on. As you can see, I color code things. So you're basically going, look, first thing is emotion and situation. Yeah. So that's the kind of the movie scene. And then the motivation and reaction is what happens as a result. So this is a kind of the basic unit of effective storytelling. It's kind of, there's a guy who's a brilliant writer. He used to write detective stories in the 1950s, and he just made a lot of money writing pulp fiction. And he said the basic unit of writing is the motivation reaction unit. Yeah. Something happens, you feel something, you do something about it. And um, every good easy read novel, yeah, not the Booker Prize winners that you can't actually make sense of, but every novel that you really like reading will have loads of those motivation reaction units. Okay, and that basically that card, and I'll send you the PDF version of that afterwards if you like. But that's basically what you need to get that embodied listening. Now, the last thing I was saying to this group is, okay, you are working, bear in mind these are speech writers, and they're working with business leaders mostly and politicians. I said, look, guys, you're working with people who might be thinking, do I really need a speech writer? Can't I just get AI to do it? Well, here's the interesting thing about AI. I'm going to tell you a little bit of theory, and then I'm going to tell you a story. The theory is AI is a triumph of a certain type of thinking. But AI is basically a triumph of the left hemisphere, the left side of the brain, which deals with probability and numbers. Right? And AI is a large language model that's an absolute amazing achievement at excuse me, probability and numbers, but it doesn't have a right side of the brain. And the right side of the brain deals with all of the rest of the stuff in that default network. It deals with other people. It deals with memory. It deals with planning for the future. It deals with emotions. It does the whole picture that AI doesn't have a body. It doesn't feel anything, whereas human audiences have a body. They feel stuff. Therefore, the AI will only ever be able to imitate the human experience through language. It won't be able to really feel it. And I showed them an example. I didn't show them an example because I wasn't using any screens. I was just using pen and paper as I've done today. But I told them about an example. And there's a company, and I'll stick the link in so you can see for yourself later. But there's a company out there now that's offering to do AI avatars to deliver your speech for you. So you go on the website, you tell them what it is you need to talk about. The AI will write the script. You approve the script. And then you hit a button and an avatar appears in about 5 minutes and delivers I was going to say your script. It's not your script, is it? You didn't write it. Delivers the words. And the avatars are all races, all genders, all ages. They speak 140 different languages. And they look almost human. And they're pretty clever. I'll be honest, they're pretty clever. And I've got one to do some words for me, and it's really clever. But here's the really interesting thing. You look at the homepage for that company, and it's got amazing video saying, yeah, our avatars do blah, 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 blah. It's all great, fantastic. You scroll down the page, and like many companies do, they have testimonials. And the testimonials are from humans saying, we use these avatars for our company. Well, why aren't the testimonials made by avatars? Yeah? Well, the answer is because we don't trust avatars. We don't trust avatars because they have no skin in the game. A lovely American phrase. If an avatar gets it wrong, if AI gets it wrong, what do they lose? If I get it wrong, I lose my reputation. I have skin in the game. And that's why you wouldn't trust a testimonial given by an avatar. You want to see the human. So it's a really nice way to pay off. So I wrap the talk up with that and say, look, you are all humans, you speechwriters, you storytellers. You're all humans. And you're going to connect to an audience of humans. And you can't beat the AI when it comes to just being a wordsmith. The AI will write faster than you can. But it cannot feel, it can't listen with its entire body because it hasn't got one. And that's never going to change. There we go. So that was the talk. I can't remember exactly how. I rounded it off with questions. Yeah, but I can't remember exactly what I said at the end. Okay, so listen, that was the talk I did. Thank you very much for interacting. What I'd like to do is, first of all, just say, look, if anybody wants to make a comment or a question, let's do that now about the talk I've just given or anything I've just talked about. But then I want to do is break it down into the elements that I used and how I used them in that color coding kind of schema. So I want to break it down into the framework. But before I do that, any thoughts, any questions about so what it's called the default network or the scenario network or the story network, which is how I believe we operate. So any questions about that? Any questions about how the talk went? Joseph.
Yes. I don't want to sound arrogant about this, but I'm probably the only one here with a PhD in psychology.
Oh, yes, you might be. Anyone else got a PhD in psychology?
And
we have a PhD in sociology on the call, but anyway, sorry, Joseph, carry on.
In neuroscience, there's a lot of stuff I'd like to take offline with you one-on-one, but the one thing I would want to point out in terms of emotions, I don't care if all the things listed here are emotions or not. That's very pedantic, and that's what people in academia do. The one most important emotion that you missed is surprise.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Yeah, 100%. I should have put it in there.
Surprise goes this way. Surprise is a very quick emotion. right? Happens in the first 40 milliseconds in the brain stuff. And surprise can go either way,
Mm,
which
mm.
means surprise, the emotional reaction happens before you are consciously aware of it,
Absolutely right.
which means you can take advantage of that to take the
Mm.
off ramp here or to take the off ramp there.
Absolutely right. You're absolutely right. It should have been on the list, Joseph. I think it might have been on my original list. Absolutely,
Yeah,
surprise is a massive, powerful
yeah.
emotion. It's a little bit like the punchline in a joke that makes people laugh. The surprise
Hmm.
in a story that makes people go, "Oh, I didn't see that coming," is
Yeah,
the reason why you retell that story because you want
yeah.
other people to get the same hit of surprise that you got.
But the trick is doing that without telling the joke twice,
Yes,
right?
this is why comedians get paid a lot of money.
Yes. Yeah.
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 This is this is
Okay.
this is brilliant. No, this is Joseph. Thank you. You're absolutely right. Surprise. The other, I mean, look, I get some pushback from clients I work with about using emotion at work, and they say, look, I don't want to talk about my emotions. There are certain emotions I don't want to own up to not liking or being frustrated by my colleagues. It's emotionally fraught. Therefore, they try and cover everything in non-emotional language. In my experience, the worst offenders for this are healthcare and social services.
Mhm.
And I think that's particularly because what they're dealing with are emotionally very difficult subjects. Anyway, that's
Mhm.
just an aside.
Mhm.
Um, what I say to people and also I work with a lot of engineers who think they don't do emotions, and some Estonians who also think they don't do emotions. Um, what?
Sorry, I just got back from doing a keynote in Tallinn
Oh,
last weekend where I used your technique to revamp my talk, and it was excellent.
listen,
Thank
Joseph,
you.
can I come back to you and come back to you on that
Yes,
one
please,
toward
definitely.
the end?
Sure, no problem.
Thank you.
I will shut up.
What was I going to say? There are certain emotions that are absolutely suitable for work. Okay, and those emotions are there's at least two, one negative, one positive. It is absolutely okay to talk about frustration in a professional setting or unhappiness in a professional setting. If you weren't frustrated with anything, nothing would ever change. So every innovator, entrepreneur, radical, revolutionary, whatever it is, yeah, who's ever changed anything has started from a bad place of frustration. So frustration is a suitable emotion. And the flip side of that, I think, is pride. Yeah. Pride at getting to the other end and having achieved something is an entirely suitable emotion for work. Clearly, if you're English like me, you don't tend to express pride about yourself because we don't do that in England. But you can always express pride about other people. Just as a general tip, as a storyteller, as an English person, if you tell stories about other people where you play a supporting role. So you're not Cinderella, you're the fairy godmother. You're not Luke, you're Yoda. If you tell a story with you in the supporting role, it makes you look good anyway. But that's just an aside. Okay, Joseph, thank you. Can I come back to that because I'd love to hear how you got on in Tallinn. Anybody else got any questions about either the emotional element we talked about or anything else that was in that presentation about listening with your entire body? Bonnie.
Well, what I really liked about it, and I think I shared this with you privately, is this part, like when you step up to a mic, like I work as a speaker, I'm a keynoter in climate science and tech and all that stuff.
Mm,
So when you get up to the mic, everybody wants to list your accolades. Like, this is why we brought this person here, blah, blah,
yes.
blah. And then you're supposed to take your first little sweet moment of time and say, oh my God, thank you for reading it. You know what? I gave that up years and years and years ago. And I
Yep.
use that to engage with the emotion and the story, exactly what you say from your vast experience. I
Yep.
found it very interesting that when I back up everything that I do, it hits the points. You can measure what you're saying. So
Yep.
it's almost like you expanded your research beyond yourself to a lot of us other people that do this for a living. And we see, oh my God, that's why that worked.
Yep. Yeah. It's one of
That's a
those
thank
interesting.
you.
Okay, thank you, Bonnie. It's one of those very interesting things that look, it's a craft, not a science. There aren't any really hard rules about it. There's just practice, 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 practice. Um, and you know, so I remember up until about a year and but up until about 2 years ago, I was a PowerPoint addict, and I would spend hours, I mean hours, on one presentation to make sure because I used to work in video. I was a video editor, TV editor, and so I knew the rules of visual communication. I know how to do slides, right? I know how to reveal information in stages so that you don't overwhelm people. I know how to do that. So I'd spend hours making slides. And then I watched a guy who basically came to a presentation with an overhead camera, a little web camera that pointed downwards, a napkin and a pen. And he delivered a, a session on how to plan for your retirement with one pen and a piece of paper. And it was brilliant. So when I've switched to, so increasingly now, and I've just discovered that the iPhone, by the way, does this desk view thing, right? So I can say, okay, I've got this network, I've got this plan here, which is like a star shape, and I draw it for you, and it's about story, theme, audience, and result, right? And I draw it out in front of you, and it actually makes I think it's a much better way of presenting, because you see the idea unfold at the speed I'm writing, and you follow me far more closely. As I'm writing, and I've only just discovered this in the last 2 years, as I'm writing on a piece of paper in front of you, your attention is fixed at the tip of my pen, exactly where I want it to be. And the fascinating thing as well, I discovered, Joseph, you can maybe have a view on this, or Erinma, you're also an expert in this kind of area. Apparently, the speed at which we can absorb information is roughly the same speed at which I can write it by hand. So I can throw 150 words on a screen on a PowerPoint slide, and you can read them, you can skim read them in about 5 seconds, but you won't remember any of them. Whereas if I write 3 words by hand or 4 words by hand, yeah, so in this case, where are we? Desk view. So I write about, I sort of write about story and theme, audience and result. As I write them out by hand, that's the speed at which you remember them. And I didn't know that, and that kind of blew me away when I realized that PowerPoint was killing my message, and also interestingly, killing the audience. They like people so bored by PowerPoint, absolutely bored rigid. When somebody gets up and does something different, boof, kind of blows us away. So this, by the way, as I said, I promised I'd kind of reflect on what happened at the conference, and what I realized was, so when I originally wrote that post, I wrote about, I wrote that look, there was story, there was theme, and there was interaction, audience interaction, and those are the three ingredients you needed. And I kind of forgotten the number one most important ingredient, which is what are you speaking for anyway? What do you want people to do or think or say as a result of your time with them? And that should be crucial to your planning of the talk. And so actually this spells, as you probably noticed, this spells STAR, which I'm very happy about because I like a good acronym. So the STAR framework, yeah, and what I find myself doing now is kind of working my way around it. So I think about, okay, I've got these ingredients here and a couple of interactions here. My main theme is going to be this. What I want at the end is this, and I kind of end up linking through planning a talk becomes very non-linear, which is what it should be at the thinking stage. You should think in a non-linear way, and obviously you have to then deliver it as a script, which is really key. So that's my main learning there, is that there's a non-linear planning tool with all those 4 ingredients: story, theme, audience, interaction, and result. That's what gets you to the stage where you can get it down to bullet points and talk really confidently without using slides. Because all of these things, the story, is natural. We're natural born storytellers. The theme is what you've got. That's what you're there for. The audience interaction is the conversation like the one we're having right now that you want to have. Anyway, listen, Ali and Jan, I see your hands are up. Thank you very much. Ali, do you want to come on the mic and ask a question?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I think it goes in the direction you were talking now. And I was curious about the process of developing the speech or the presentation.
Yep.
And I just like from my side, I tend to like to craft, like start with the result and craft like the pieces. And
Yep.
what I'm missing there is the story. And since I'm in a business context, somehow I don't dare to, I'm not so bold there because I think, oh, this is not appropriate. Yeah, so in which, like, how do you do it? Like you're showing us and it looks like you're doing at the same time the whole process, or do you have first the theme and then you start reflecting on the other pieces?
It's very interesting. Good question. I think that post-it notes are great. Yeah, audience interaction, so basically you can do it with post-it notes, because what you do with post-it notes is you kind of lay one post-it note for each idea, and then you can shuffle them around. What I would also say is really, really important. I don't know if I can do this, but I don't know if you can see here the size of the piece of paper I'm working on. So if I pull the camera back there, yeah, the bigger the piece of paper you can think on, the better.
Mm-hmm.
If you're trying to think on a mobile phone screen or a laptop or a tablet, you're hemming your ideas in. Your brain is constrained. So again think around those. They're not linear. You can start with a story, or you can start with a theme, or you can start with the result you want to get at the end, or you can start a presentation like I did with an interaction. So it's not linear, but all of these are the ingredients, and then you kind of shuffle them around, and then it's just down to trial and error. You have to try them out and see, and yeah, it's really challenging. Listen, I'm going to try and get through as many questions as I can now for the next 10 minutes. Jan, you've got the next hand up. Hello, Jan. Nice to see you again. Jan and I used to work together at the BBC. Everybody,
Nice
hello, Jan. Enjoying the sunshine?
we did. Hi. Nice to see. I know. Sorry, I am sat outside. Got to make the most of the day, haven't you? So I've been trying to introduce more interaction, because I do a lot of training, and I do a lot of training on using PowerPoint, which feels like I have to use PowerPoint because I'm showing them how to use it.
Yep.
So that's always a difficult bit. But I've been doing some teaching at college, and I've been trying to do more brainstorming around things and using kind of the flip chart and getting other people to come up and say things as well. So I think it's about it. It very much depends on the subjects that you are, whether you're teaching or whether you're talking about something. So do you think it's subject driven rather than storytelling?
No, I think any presentation you want it to be interactive, because you don't want people to fall asleep. And therefore, back to Joseph's point, if you can surprise people, they'll never forget that moment of surprise. So, in a PowerPoint, you can can you visually I'm sorry, I'm on the wrong camera. Hold on a second. So, for example, if you're using PowerPoint, can you visually lead people in a certain direction, and then in the next slide, switch it? So they think they know what's coming. You make them guess what's coming next, and then you flip it on the slide, and it's completely not what they're expecting. So that sort of thing will give them a surprise. And what you're doing by using PowerPoint is you are orchestrating the surprise. So you're holding the information back until you're ready.
I was telling them all.
So timing is everything. On that, timing is absolutely crucial. I sound like I'm running. Sorry, Jan.
Sorry.
I said I sound like I'm running PowerPoint. Go.
Sorry. I was saying I was doing a microteach session the other week, and I said in that years and years and years ago, I went to one of those big conferences, learning technologies conferences in London, and this guy had a picture of a crow, this weird looking crow on this wall, and everyone was like, "Why is there a picture of a crow? It's so weird." And he actually said at the beginning, he said, "This crow has got absolutely nothing to do with what I'm talking about, but you will always remember this presentation." I was like, yes. He
Yes.
completely got everybody in the room because we were all like, yeah,
What's
he
with the
has.
crow? Yeah, well, things like that.
Exactly. It was like, what? Why?
Yeah. Well, it's like like you put that sign up and says or outside the chicken restaurant says, "Don't try not to think of fried chicken," and everyone's going, "You're all now thinking of fried chicken." Sorry, folks, especially those of you in America where it's not even anywhere near your dinner time yet. Okay, you're right. Listen, we're going to try and rattle through a couple more questions. I'd love to hear, Joseph, how you got on with your talk, and we might have to take that up as a separate conversation. Donna, you had your hand up. Sorry for coming so late.
Hi, sorry, I'm popping in and out making lunch here in the US. Can
Fried
you hear me
chicken?
okay? No, but now I do want fried chicken. Thank you for that gentle suggestion.
Don't think about the elephant.
Yeah, I know. I commented on your post on LinkedIn because you had that brilliant idea that instead of saying, okay, now any questions? Like it's just so abrupt that you got the people to move their body, make eye contact with somebody, talk amongst yourselves for a second. I'll give you 60 seconds. That was so great. And then today again, you had to start with like an embodied moment where we're looking at each other.
Yep.
So for those transition times, it helps get people connected. Any other tips along those lines?
I do a really nice one. We could do a Zoom Mexican wave. So everyone has got their camera on. Again, it's all about embodied. It's about connection. So if you've got your camera on, put your hand towards your camera. So everyone reach towards your camera. Okay, now put your hands out to the edge of your own screen. Okay, so you're touching, and now we all look like we're touching hands. Come on, Bonnie. You're all like you're sort of holding hands. Okay, and now you can do a Mexican wave up, 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 and then down, 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 and then up, 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 and down, 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 and then that like that. Yeah. Look, anything where you can break normal pattern of behavior, move people physically. Obviously, Zoom is a very weird kind of physical space. Move people physically, move them emotionally, break normal patterns of behavior. Back to Joseph's point, give them any kind of surprise. So if you know what people are expecting, you can do one of two things. You can give them what they're expecting, in which case they feel, a little bit satisfied. Oh, I could see that coming. Or you can break the pattern and give them something they're not expecting, in which case they go, oh, which is why, by the way, the structuring things in threes is so easy. Because with a 3, you can go, oh, one time this happened, second time this happened. Now you've established a pattern. Third time, so the little pigs and the big bad wolf, the first house made of straw fell down, second house made of sticks fell down, but the third house made of bricks. So that is the structure of 3 is the very basic, most basic structure for surprise. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Listen, I've got